Welcome to the Safety Training and Access Overview video for Bucknell's Makerspaces, which include the 7th Street Makerspace, the Mooney Lab, and the Makery. By the end of this video, you should fully understand the basic safety guidelines, as well as the practices you'll be expected to follow when working in these spaces. After watching this video, you will answer some quiz questions to demonstrate that you understand the material we've covered. If you successfully complete the training module by earning a score of 100%, you will be granted access to Bucknell's Makerspaces. Access is typically granted within 24 to 48 hours. The 7th Street Makerspace is located in the 7th Street building at the intersection of 7th Street and Moore Avenue. The Mooney Lab is in the basement of Dana, and the Makery is in Dana Room 111. Each space has a slightly different focus and a range of equipment and different schedules for access and student technician support. All Makerspaces are open to all Bucknell students, faculty, and staff. For schedules, staff contact information, documentation on how to use equipment, etc., please refer to the websites for each space, which can be found at www.bucknell.edu/maker. Let's talk about safety and good practices for the Makerspaces. First up, you should know that the student technicians are there to help you, to protect the machinery, to protect your safety, and to make sure that everything works properly. So, if you have any questions, make sure to ask one of the technicians. That's what they're there for. In order to use the equipment in the Makerspaces, you must be trained. Talk to one of the technicians. We encourage you to help other people who are working in the Makerspace, but do not enable anyone to use a machine if the person is not approved to do so. If you have a machine running a job, such as the laser cutter or the vacuum former, you need to stay with it while it is working. Do not just set up a job and then leave the Makerspace. There is, however, one exception. The 3D printers are the only tools that you may leave on and unattended when you exit the Makerspace. We want to be very sure that you respect the safety features on the various machines you are using. You may not defeat access controls or interlocks on any machines. Defeating any safety or access feature is a severe violation of Makerspace policies. As stated in the user agreement, keep in mind that nothing that you make in the Makerspaces can be sold for a profit. You can make things because it's art, you can make things because it's a class project, you can make things just because you want to, but not to sell for profit. You are also prohibited from making items that promote or otherwise celebrate the use of drugs, alcohol, tobacco, profanity, violence, images, or text that is sexually suggestive or derogatory to any person, group, or community. So you want to make something in the Makerspace. What do you do first? First, you go to the website for the space and read the tutorial and the rules for the equipment that you want to use. Let's say that you want to use the vacuum former. First, read the tutorial for the vacuum former. Next, talk to one of our friendly technicians about what it is you want to do and what machine you want to use. They'll ask you a few questions to ascertain whether or not you have read and understood the tutorial. If they think you could use a little more study, they'll ask you to sit on the couch and review the tutorial again. When both you and the tech are ready, you can go use this machine under the tech's supervision. When it's clear that you understand how to use the tool safely and correctly, you will be authorized to use it independently. For machines that are particularly easy to use or machines where you have previous experience, you may get qualified on the very first time through the tutorial. But for things that require a little bit more practice, such as the vacuum former or laser cutter, you may need to work under supervision multiple times before you are qualified for independent use. When you get qualified on your first piece of equipment, you will receive a special Maker card, which is shown here. After receiving your card, you should customize it by adding your Bucknell username with a vinyl cut label or any graphics that you would choose to add. Once you are qualified to use a piece of equipment, your Maker card will unlock the portal boxes. After this occurs, you can enter your card into the portal box connected to the equipment that you want to use, and once the box turns green, the equipment will be unlocked. Some of the equipment in the Makerspace only works for specific materials. Talk to the technician to get the materials you need. It is critically important that you only use the correct materials with the correct devices, because some materials will emit hazardous chemicals or otherwise damage the equipment. Outside materials that you bring in must be approved by a technician prior to use. When you're working in the Makerspace, you might get partway through a project and not finish it up. That's okay. We have storage spaces in each of the Makerspaces where you can store your projects and materials. It's very important that you label your belongings with your name, date, and contact info. Projects left out without this info may be disposed of. Consult with a technician to determine where you can store your project and for how long. Another element of wrapping up your work in the Makerspaces is to be sure to clean your work area, return any tools to the appropriate areas, clean up any debris that may be on the floor, and make sure that you throw away all non-usable leftover material in the appropriate receptacle. If you have usable leftover material, please ensure that it is returned for reuse. You're expected to follow the Makerspace User Agreement and Safety Guidelines. All infractions will be dealt with as outlined in the User Agreement. You are also responsible for understanding the User Agreement. Please be conscientious and heed the User Agreement and Safety Guidelines so that you will be able to continue using the Makerspaces. Our Makerspaces have equipment that could injure your vision, hearing, lungs, cause burns, etc., so it is essential to wear personal protective equipment, also called PPE, when operating or working near such equipment. For example, if using a drill or a Dremel tool, you would need to wear safety glasses, closed-toed shoes, and you would need to make sure that you weren't wearing any loose-fitting clothing that could get tangled in the tool. If you're unsure of what PPE to use for a particular job, then ask a technician. If someone, including you, is injured in one of the Makerspaces, you should first seek medical attention immediately. Either call 911 in the case of an emergency or public safety at 577-1111, or go to health services. You may also use the first aid kit in the Makerspace for minor injuries. You should then promptly ask a technician to help you fill out an accident report form. This concludes the general overview for Bucknell's Makerspaces.